Dear brothers and sisters, today we will embark on a journey to explore one of Jesus' most important teaching, the Sermon on the Mount. We will not only listen to his teachings, but also try to understand more deeply the meaning of each word, each phrase that Jesus shared with us more than 2,000 years ago. We will put ourselves in the context of that time, imagining ourselves as part of the crowd gathered on the hill of Galilee, listening to the teachings that still have a profound impact on the world today. 1. Blessed are the poor in spirit. What does it really mean? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:3. This statement may come as a surprise to many, especially in the context of a society that has always valued material wealth and financial success. However, what Jesus is trying to convey here is not material poverty, but a state of mind, poverty of the spirit. Poverty of the spirit, a modesty and self-awareness. Poverty of the spirit refers to a deep humility and awareness of one's own inadequacy in the eyes of God. It is the recognition that we cannot find true happiness or salvation on our own without God's help. It is the beginning of a spiritual journey where we realize that we need God more than anything else in life. Practical example from everyday life. Think of someone who has achieved everything the world can offer: fame, money, power. Yet they still feel empty and dissatisfied. This shows that material wealth cannot bring lasting peace or happiness. Only when they recognize their spiritual poverty and turn to God for guidance do they find true peace and meaning. Humility and trust in God. Poverty of spirit is also related to humility and trust in God. In the modern world, we are often encouraged to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. But Jesus taught that true happiness and prosperity come not from complete independence, but from dependence on God. This does not mean that we abandon personal responsibility, but that we recognize our limitations and rely on God's help to overcome them. For example, a person works hard and achieves success in his career. However, instead of being proud of his achievements, he humbly recognizes that everything is a gift from God and continues to live a simple and grateful life. 2. Blessed are those who mourn. Acknowledgement and comfort. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4. This is one of those teachings that at first glance seems paradoxical. Why bless those who mourn? In a world that encourages us to hide our pain and move on, Jesus encourages us to acknowledge and express our pain. Acknowledgement of feelings and the importance of lamentation. Lamentation is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous act of acknowledging our true feelings. It allows us to connect more honestly with God and with others. Jesus is not telling us to avoid pain, but rather inviting us to draw closer to God through our mourning. Imagine a family that has lost a loved one. Pain of loss is immense, and expressing this pain not only helps them move through the healing process, but also opens the door for God and their community to offer comfort and support. Comfort in God, peace that passes understanding. Jesus promised that those who mourn will be comforted. This is not just a temporary comfort, but a promise of eternal comfort from God. This comfort comes from knowing that God is always with us, even in the most difficult times. It comes from the peace that passes understanding, a state of mind that only God can bring. For example, a person goes through a major personal crisis, such as losing a job or getting a divorce. In these times, comfort may not come from solving the problem immediately, but from feeling God's presence and knowing that He has a bigger plan for their life. 3. Blessed are the meek, the power of meekness. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Matthew 5:5. Jesus praised the meek, but the meekness He spoke of was not weakness. It was restrained strength, quality of peace and patience in the face of difficulty. Meekness is the power of control. In the modern world, we often think that to be successful, we must be strong and assertive. However, Jesus taught that true strength lies in the ability to restrain ourselves and respond with kindness, even when we are treated unfairly. Meekness is the ability to control anger and choose love over retaliation. For example, in a stressful work environment, a person may be provoked by the words or actions of a coworker. Instead of reacting with anger or revenge, they choose to respond with kindness, calmness, and patience. This not only helps maintain harmonious relationships, but also sets a good example for those around them. Inheriting the earth. Promise of peace. Jesus promised that the meek will inherit the earth. This can be interpreted in many ways, but one of the most common interpretations is that they will live in peace and harmony with the world around them. Meekness helps us live in harmony with others, creating a more peaceful and happy environment for everyone. Think of a family where members seek to understand and support each other, rather than argue and fight. Such a family will not only be a safe haven for its members, but also an example for other families to follow. 4. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Matthew 5, verse 6. Hunger and thirst for righteousness is not simply a desire for justice, but a deep desire to live a life according to God's values and principles. Hunger and thirst for righteousness. Call to action. Jesus encourages us not only to desire a more just world, but also to actively participate in creating it. This may include defending the vulnerable, standing up against injustice, and living a life of integrity and honesty. For example, a person may recognize injustice in his or her society, perhaps discrimination or injustice in the legal system. They decide to not just stand by and watch, but to take action to make a difference. Perhaps through joining social movements, volunteering at charities, or using their voice to speak up for justice. Filled. God's promise. Jesus promised that those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be filled. This means that God will satisfy their hunger, not always in the way they expect, but in the way He knows is best. This filling can be the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived according to God's values, or it can be the positive results of our efforts to bring about justice. Think of someone who has spent their life working for social justice. While they may not see immediate results, they are filled with peace and satisfaction knowing that they have lived a meaningful life and have impacted the lives of many others. And 5. Blessed are the merciful. Power of compassion. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Matthew 5, 7. Compassion is not only sympathy for the suffering of others, but also the willingness to act to help them. Jesus taught that the mercy we receive from God depends on the mercy we show to others. What is compassion? Compassion is a combination of compassion and action. It is the ability to see the suffering of others and the willingness to do something to help, even if it requires us to sacrifice ourselves. For example, a person sees a homeless person on the street and decides not only to give them a meal, but also to help them find temporary housing and support them in finding a job. This is not just compassion in thought, but compassion demonstrated through concrete actions. Receiving mercy. Fruit of a merciful life. Jesus promises that those who are merciful will receive mercy. This does not mean that we do good deeds to receive mercy, but rather that in giving, we also receive much in return. God's mercy surpasses anything we can imagine, and is given to us not because of our merits, because of His love and grace. Think of someone who devotes their life to charity, helping those in need. They do not do this to get anything in return, but in the process of helping others, they find that they are also being shown mercy and blessed in many other ways, through new relationships, through the joy of seeing others happy, and through inner peace. Number 6. Blessed are the pure in heart. Authenticity and integrity. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew 5, 8. This teaching encourages us to live a life of truth and integrity, not only in our actions but also in our thoughts and intentions. Purity of heart. An invitation to authenticity. Purity of heart is not only about moral purity, but also about authenticity and integrity. It is living a life without pretense, without masks, but being true to oneself and to others. It is living a life in which thoughts, words, and actions are consistent and in harmony with God's values. For example, a businessman decides not to engage in fraudulent activities, even though it may bring in large profits. He chooses to live by his values and maintain integrity in all his dealings, knowing that honesty and integrity are of the utmost importance. Seeing God. Promise of closeness to God. Jesus promised that those who are pure in heart will see God. This is not just a promise about the future, but also a present experience. When we live a life of truth and integrity, we will feel God's presence in our daily lives. We will see Him in the small moments of love, kindness, and honesty. Think of a person who lives a life of integrity and purity. They not only feel inner peace, but also see the presence of God in the people around them, in the work they do, and in the relationships they build. 7. Blessed are the peacemakers, those who bring reconciliation. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. Jesus calls us not only to live in peace, but also to actively build peace. Be people who bring reconciliation and unity to this conflict-filled world. Peacemaking, actions that bring reconciliation. Peacemaking is not just about avoiding conflict, but about actively participating in resolving conflicts and bringing about reconciliation. It is about being a bridge between conflicting parties, helping them understand and respect each other. It is working for fairness and justice, because true peace cannot exist without justice. For example, a person who works in an NGO that specializes in conflict resolution. They not only prevent violence, but also work with both sides to find peaceful and lasting solutions to ongoing problems. Being called children of God, a noble title. Jesus promised that peacemakers would be called children of God. This means that when we do peacemaking work, we reflect the nature of God, who is the source of peace and love. We become representatives of God in the world, bringing peace and reconciliation to those around us. Think of a person who works tirelessly to bring about reconciliation in their family, community, or even within nations. Their job is not only to resolve conflict, but also to bring healing and rebuild damaged relationships. 8. Blessed are those persecuted for righteousness. Courage and faithfulness. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. The lives of those who follow Jesus are not always easy. Jesus warns that faithfulness to Him may lead to persecution and hardship. However, it also promises that the reward for this faithfulness, the kingdom of heaven. Persecuted for righteousness, a call to courage. Persecution can come in many forms, from criticism and ridicule to physical violence and even martyrdom. Jesus encourages us that when we suffer for righteousness, we are joining a long tradition of those who have stood up for truth and justice in the face of opposition. For example, someone stands up against injustice in their company and gets fired for it. Even though they lose their job, they know they did the right thing and have no regrets about the decision. The kingdom of heaven, the reward of faithfulness. Jesus promises that the reward for those who are persecuted for righteousness is the kingdom of heaven. This means that, although we may face hardships in this life, our reward will be eternal life in God's presence, where there's no more suffering, tears, or injustice. Think of those who have stood up for their faith and values despite persecution. They know that their faithfulness will be rewarded not only in this world, but also in the kingdom of heaven, where they will be reunited with God forever. Applying the Sermon on the Mount to your daily life. The Sermon on the Mount is not just a collection of moral teachings, but also a roadmap for our daily lives. It calls us to live lives based on humility, mercy, purity, and the pursuit of justice. It reminds us that no matter how difficult life may be, God is always with us. The reward for our faithfulness and righteousness will be peace, joy, and the kingdom of heaven. Let these teachings permeate our lives, transforming the way we think, act, and treat others. And remember, in everything we do, we reflect God's love and kindness to the world. Thank you for watching today's video on the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus Christ. We hope this video has helped you gain a deeper understanding of His important teaching. You found this content helpful? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bible Light's channel to stay updated with our latest videos. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Feel free to leave your thoughts or any questions you have in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you and may address them in future videos. Thank you, and see you in the next video.